The Good Vibrations podcast is made possible by sponsorship from the Phoenix Light Foundation. Visit thephoenixlightfoundation.co.nz for more information.
Welcome to Good Vibrations with me, Phyllis Brown. I believe that every person has an extraordinary story to tell, one that will give you hope when there is no light at the end of the tunnel. So join me and be inspired by my guests' journey as they share insights you can use to grow and develop on your path. So this week we're joined by Murray Carter. Hello and welcome to you. Thanks for coming in.
And hello, Phyllis, and thanks for the invite.
Oh, I'm really excited. We met a long time ago, and we've been on Facebook for a long time, so it's nice to see you again in person. Yes,
well, I think it was last century.
Oh, you make me sound old. Buddy. Oh, that's super. So we've brought you in today because we're part of the same network working group here in Christchurch, and I'm always really fascinated by the posts that you put both in the networkers but also on Facebook, because we actually have been Facebook friends for a long time. So I think just first, if you could just tell the listener a little bit about yourself, Murray.
Well, how long have we got?
As long as you need.
Okay, about myself. Born in Dunedin, lived quite a lot of my time in Christchurch, but also in Auckland as well. My career was in sales and marketing, both as a sales professional, but also leading teams, and some quite big teams as well. On the personal side, I've got 3 adult children. One's a lawyer, one's a marketing manager, and the other's an office administrator. Yeah. And I've got 3 wonderful grandchildren. You always have to say wonderful grandchildren, don't you? And I'm married to a wonderful woman called Patria, and we've got 1 dog, and we're fostering another dog.
Oh, beautiful.
For Dog Watch.
So I'm distracted by fostering the dog then. So what does that mean?
Basically, well, to give you an example of the dog we've got, the name's Trixie. She's about 9 months old. She's a Staffy Cross. Yeah. She was picked up by the city council dog people. She had a litter of puppies, so it's quite tragic really, puppies having puppies. Yeah. And no one came forward to claim her, and so they asked Dog Watch if they could find a forever home.
Right.
And there was some issues, some health issues around that, and also behavioural issues, being a puppy. So we've had her for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll probably have her till after Christmas.
Right.
Yeah, may even keep her. Yeah,
oh, we'll my see. Goodness. So she's landed on her paws then, maybe?
Pretty much.
I think when you sent through your just your personal stuff before we came on the show today, and you talk a little bit about just an introduction there about team building and managing teams, and you have actually managed some amazing teams, large corporate bodies. And I just want you to just tell the listener, what got you into being that team leader in that role of personal development or the personal services, and what were the major challenges and what were the best successes? Because really, some of the teams you've led have been amazing.
Well, for me anyhow, the result I'm looking for in working with people is to help them see their true potential. Yeah. And that's it's actually quite a lead into how I became involved with hypnotherapy as well. I was managing a team of salespeople for the largest recruitment company on the planet, and I had at that stage it was 12 offices in New Zealand. I had salespeople that I recruited, I trained, I provided them with the resources they needed to do the job, and I also spent some time in the field with them every 3 months. So I spent 3 years living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
But you may be familiar with the bell curve. And the bell curve, it looks like a bell.
Yeah.
And on the left-hand side, you've got about 10% of the population, or in other words, salespeople, who are exceeding their targets month after month after month. They're really knocking it in. It's easy and effortless, basically, for them. You've got the great majority in the middle, about 80% of the bell part, and they will struggle to meet their target, but they will get there.
Yeah.
And then there's 10% on the other end who are failing, and they're not meeting their targets. And I really wanted to know why that was, because all things being equal, they had the same resources, same training, same time with me, and yet some were excelling and others were failing. So I started an inquiry, and because I really wanted to know how the mind worked. And I got a clue from one of my sales reps, and she said it's like living life with the handbrake on and not knowing how to release it.
Wow.
And that was a clue for me. And so I trained as a clinical hypnotherapist with a company in Auckland called Hypnosis. I did it not to be a hypnotherapist, but just to have more knowledge and skills that I could bring to my role as a sales manager. And on the course there was 12 of us. It was 135 classroom hours, which is quite significant, both time and financially. And then there was 50 hours of supervision and home study. And on the course there was an orthopedic surgeon, and there was a dentist, and I knew then that I was in the right room. So I got a lot of tools that I could use with my sales team, and also tools that I could use with friends and family who were wanting to make positive changes in their life. And it was really the earthquakes here in Christchurch that changed a lot of people's lives, also changed mine. And it was a decision I made there and then that I would build this as a business, helping people. And so I worked part-time for 3 years, and on the 1st of April 2014 I went basically full-time and have been ever since. So that brings us up to where I am today. Mind coaching, what is it? It's a name, okay?
Yeah.
My focus, there was nobody in New Zealand that I was aware of who was actually working with salespeople, with business owners, with entrepreneurs and that sort of stuff. And I did a little bit of anecdotal research, and it showed me quite clearly that people, if they had heard of hypnosis or hypnotherapy, they thought it was about people making other people bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken or other stupid things, or they never heard of it at all. And so I wanted a name that would be relatable to my target audience. And so it became a very small leap to go from mind to coaching. Everybody understands what a coach does.
They do.
Whether it be a life coach or a sports coach. And so mind coach, people, I don't have to explain what I do. And if people ask me, my elevator speech is, I help people to change their mind.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, how do you do that?
Well, what we'll do, before we go on to that, what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, well, you're going to tell us how we do that. So we'll be back in just a moment.
The Good Vibrations podcast would not be possible without the support of Phyllis Brown. For personal development and life coaching sessions, data healings and spiritual insights, go to phyllisbrown.co.nz to book a session in person, on the phone or by Skype today.
Okay, so before we left for that short break there, you were going to, you sort of merged us, we drew us into the mind coaching thing. And so how do you help people change their mind?
Good question. I love it. First of all, I just want to give you a little bit of background regarding the science.
Yeah.
Okay, and there are 4 states of consciousness: beta, alpha, theta and delta. We're in beta at the moment, and some of the distinctions with beta are that we're aware of what we're doing, who we're with, we're also aware of time.
Yep.
But also in beta is what the scientists call the inner critic. I call it Jiminy Cricket sitting on my shoulder or your shoulder, saying, you're not good enough, you can't do that. If you looked in the mirror lately, you'll never work out, you'll never be anybody. And it's all those things, and it's there all the time. Yeah. And if you're quiet, you can hear it. And it's that thing that holds a lot of people back.
Yeah.
So that's beta, that's the state we're in at the moment. The next step down from that is alpha. Alpha is what I call the daydream state. It's not a sleep state.
No.
I'll give you, the best way to describe it is to give you some examples that you may be able to relate to. Firstly, you're driving home to this wonderful place, and you get home and you can't really remember the journey.
How you got there.
Yeah, because your mind has been doing its own thing in the background. Another example would be that you're at the movies and you watch the movie and you got out and it felt like not 1 hour and 34 minutes, it felt like 24 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're so engrossed in it. And another example would be that you're on the computer, you're chatting away on social media, or you're playing a game or whatever, and you're just totally unaware of time, and somebody says, oh, do you realise that you've been doing this for 3 or 4 hours? And you say, boy, time really flew.
Yeah.
That's another example of being in the alpha state. I'll come back to that in a second. Then you've got theta and delta. Theta is light sleep, delta is deep sleep. And the experts tell us that we need 4 cycles, 90-minute cycles of deep sleep going into light sleep and then back into deep sleep. Sometimes when clients come to me, they will go into theta. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. So when clients have a session with me, my goal is to take them down into alpha.
Right.
Okay. The worst thing that can happen, as I tell all my clients, is that you have a very relaxing time, and it's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people will lie down on the couch, some people will sit in a comfy chair. It's really over to them, but the focus is on them getting relaxed and leaving all their troubles and concerns of the day at the front door.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens in a session? Are we on to that?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. What happens in a session is that you get comfortable. And for some people, getting comfortable could be sitting upright in a comfy chair, or it could be lying on a couch with a pillow and a very warm, sort of velvety feeling blanket that you can pull up around your neck.
Yeah.
And people love it because it's not only keeping warm, because your body temperature does drop a wee bit when you're in that relaxed state. But it's also psychologically, it feels like you're being cocooned or held in some way, and that will help. I've got some wonderful music that I bought from a hypnotherapist in the US. I've got the rights to it, and it's designed to take my clients down into the alpha state and keep them there. And I use that for my background music on my MP3s as well, that I record for clients. So that's the science. And so you come in, you lie down, you get comfortable. I turn off most of the lights. I put on the wonderful music, and then I start talking to you. It sounds simple, but I've got to tell you, it's not as simple as it sounds, because the words that I say are critical to you making the changes in your life.
So before you get to that space with your client, Murray, do you have a consultation beforehand, so that once you've got them into that deeply relaxed space, you really know where their blocks are? We go back to your sales assistant who's going, the handbrake's on, I don't know how to get the handbrake on. She would describe what that handbrake would be for her, and then you would unpack it.
Yeah, she would know that she has a problem, but most people, well, going right back, usually what happens is that at some age between 3 and 7, that somebody in authority, it could be a parent, it could be a family member or a school teacher, said something to that little person that was a judgment. They took it as a judgment that I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to measure up. I'm never going to be able to do what people ask me to do, that sort of thing. And so when people come to see me, they know that something's holding them back, but they've got no idea what it is, or how to release it. So quite often I use a regression technique, which takes them back year by year to where the blockage occurred, and then they can sort of describe what happened in most cases, and we can fix it there and then. And it never. And one of the ways of doing it is to thank that child, that inner child, that 3 to 5 to 7-year-old child, to thank it and say, well, hey, you've done a fantastic job of keeping me safe, but now it's time to take a holiday. And I'm not going to give up on you. I'm going to keep in touch with you, but I can do it myself. Thanks very much.
What we'll do is we'll just take a quick break, and when we come back after this advert, I want to talk about the types of issues that maybe people want to come, just in a broad term. And I've always wanted to ask a hypnotherapist, is there anyone that cannot be hypnotised? So we'll come back after this break, and we'll have those little gems.
The Good Vibrations podcast would like to thank the Phoenix Light Foundation for their support. Unlock your passion for crystals and open yourself up to the world of crystal healing with our self-guided crystal course that you can complete at your own pace online. With guided videos and written support exercises, you can enhance your life with crystal energy. Get 50% off today with the code PHOENIX50. Go to thephoenixlightfoundation.co.nz to start your journey.
Okay, so just before we had that break, we talked about, this beautiful safe space, this warm blanket, this cocooned feeling. You've got that person in that space, because sometimes that could be quite vulnerable as well. For some people, they're going to open themselves up to the most deepest aspects of themselves that even they might not know. So what are some of the topics that you can help people with? For me, I've known people from my own personal experience who go for smoking is a big thing, dieting, I had a friend who did a crash course, literally a crash course in hypnotherapy for driving, so she could pass her driving test. It was the fear of passing her test. So those are like those really fundamental things. But what are other aspects can people come that you can help change their mind?
How long's a piece of string?
I know.
It's fears and anxieties affect most people at some stage in their life, and it can be an ongoing thing. And when it becomes an irrational fear, it really has an impact on living life.
Yep.
In fact, your life becomes quite small if you've got this big thing. I'll give you an example. In fact, I've had quite a few examples in this area, and it's fear of flying.
Right.
I've had a client who was a senior manager for quite a large company, and he could not get on a plane for whatever reason. He didn't know the reasons why. He couldn't explain it to himself. He just knew that he had this irrational fear, and he needed to do something about it because it was impacting on his ability to do his job.
Yeah.
And we had three sessions, and it no longer troubles him.
Okay.
And that's the key. See, the thing is, I don't need to know. In fact, I've had a couple of clients I can think of straight away who would not tell me what the problem was.
Okay.
Okay, it could have been because it was embarrassing or they're ashamed of it and that sort of stuff, but it works just as well if I don't know.
Okay.
In terms of the sort of clients I've had everything from a doctor with anorexia,
Right.
Right through to a client who had been, well, he told me he'd been abducted by aliens.
Right. Okay.
And he wanted to do a regression around that to find out exactly what happened, and so we were able to take him back. I think they started about when he was 7, and by the time he was 17 they'd gone.
Right.
But it was pretty heavy stuff.
For him, it would have been. That would have locked him in.
And me.
Yeah.
So it's anything and everything. They told us when we were trained that to try it on everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there, as I say, just before that break, I've always wanted to ask, is there anyone who can't be hypnotised? Have you ever come across someone who's so resistant? They're there, but they're really resistant.
The answer is no.
Right.
And I'll give you a reason and an example of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody goes to sleep at night.
We do.
Okay, and hopefully they wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
Refreshed and revitalised. It's in that space just before you go to sleep and just after you wake up that you are in that space of being an alpha, or the trance state.
Yeah.
And then you usually slip into theta.
Yeah.
And then delta. So the answer is, I've never had anybody who has not been able to be hypnotised.
Right.
The other question I get is, what happens if I go to sleep? And the answer is nothing, because your subconscious mind, which is taking on board all the positive suggestions that I'm giving you, does it whether you are there or not.
Aware or not, yeah.
Or aware of it or not, I should say.
Yeah. And do you work with children?
Personally, I don't. I don't as a rule.
Yeah.
It's not because I don't want to. It's because they don't come to me.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have had. What I find is with parents. I'm remembering one case in particular where there was about an 8-year-old who was thumb sucking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I didn't do the hypnotherapy part of it. But I work with the parents.
Right.
And so dealing with the child, who's your hero?
Yeah.
Okay, Superman.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would Superman sit?
Yeah.
Okay, and how would Superman sit if he was sucking his thumb?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so all his parents had to do was, you know,
Remind him
say
to be
hello,
Superman.
and I gave them a little script
Yeah.
that they could read to him as they'd go off to sleep.
Beautiful.
The last thing.
Yeah.
So they did it for themselves, really.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
really good. That's
Yeah, but
good.
as I said, as a general rule, I don't really see people. It goes in cycles. You know, if I get one client with one thing they want to work on,
Yep.
I'll get 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And the flavour of the month for October was cold calling or call reluctance.
Right.
The total fear of the telephone
Yeah.
or knocking on a door, and what may happen.
Right.
And it sounds really simple,
Yeah.
but it's a huge fear for quite a few people.
Yeah. I would imagine.
And the key of it is to firstly create positive habits, and secondly, it's to create how you see the problem. And by that I mean, if you saw that lifting up the phone and ringing somebody was just to have a conversation, it would be a lot less stressful than, I've got to make a sales call.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's never a sales call, it's always about starting a conversation.
Yeah. Oh, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. I'll tell you, I'm a real film buff, and as you've been talking, I just absolutely adore Barbara Streisand. And of course, her movie, in which she was hypnotised, it was all her past life, and the therapist fell in love with the Barbara of the past lives, but not in this present life, and it was called On a Clear Day. You Can See Forever. It was actually called On a Clear Day, but of course that song was just so epic, with her running through the park. Completely liberated. She felt completely liberated through her experience with him, knowing who she had been in the past and who she is now. So when your clients, I'm not going to say they're all Barbara Streisand, I'm going to run through Bailey Park, singing, but when you crack that nut, when you get that little kernel and you reveal it and expose it and then change it, is that how your clients feel? Do they feel quite liberated not to have that fears or those anxieties?
Some people will experience change almost immediately.
Yep.
Other people, it's a lot more subtle. And it's only when they look back after 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks that they can see that change has happened, or I'm not doing that anymore, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And like people are smoking.
Yep.
You've got 2 aspects to it. You've got the intellectual side of things. I know the financial costs, I know the health costs, I know that sort of stuff. But then there's also the emotional side of things, and smoking is a emotional addiction. It's not a chemical addiction at all. Yeah. And if people realise that because it's emotional, that they are in control. Okay, and so they have a choice in the matter. So if they, instead of had an unconscious habit of lighting up a cigarette with a cup of coffee in the morning, and they had the power to have choice, they may choose not to.
Yep.
And anecdotally, that will cut smoking in half.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, hopefully that advice will resonate with people.
And I've got some exciting news in that regard, actually. I've got my first client referred by ACC in smoking.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, hopefully that's a real thought for what's going to happen in the future, because it really needs it.
Yeah.
that really needs it.
Yeah, it does. Well, on that note, Murray, we will we'll wrap up our show. Thank you so much for your advice, and hopefully people will maybe sort of look at hypnotherapy on a much broader perspective rather than just the diet, etc. And hopefully you helping people change their mind will just grow. But it's been a pleasure and a joy having you in the studio this evening. Thank you.
It's been great to share the time with you, Phyllis. Thank you.
Thanks, Murray. You've been listening to Good Vibrations with me, Phyllis Brown. I hope my guest story today has inspired you to grow and make positive changes in your life. You can find Good Vibrations on Facebook and Instagram and share your journey with us. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcast and share, rate and review our show. Or follow us on Spotify and YouTube. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and join us next week for more Good Vibrations.
This podcast was brought to you by the Phoenix Light Foundation. For personal development courses, visit thephoenixlightfoundation.co.nz and use the code PHOENIX50 for 50% off all courses.